Hello, and welcome to the Coach Therapy Podcast. I'm Coach Q, and I am so excited that you decided to tune in today. We're going to take a journey through vulnerability so that we can reach clarity, healing, growth, and success. You're going to learn some things about you, you'll learn some things about me, but most importantly, you will receive tools every episode that will help you to become better every single day. Enjoy Coach Therapy. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Coach Therapy Podcast. I'm Coach Q, and I'm so excited that you clicked on this video so that we could chat today and just have a quick little session, talk about some things, hopefully something that is going to help you in your life in becoming better and elevating. So I am, as you all know, I'm a football junkie, and I told you I can always find a message in something that the athletes say during their press conference or just whatever. And um, I was watching the Bills versus the Eagles this week because I am a Buffalo Bills fan. Grew up in Buffalo, New York. Um, Kind of converted over to a Falcons fan because I've been living in Atlanta for so many years. But literally, I grew up watching the Bills, watching them go to the Super Bowl and lose year after year after year. And we would have the biggest Super Bowl parties. My brother Andre would his birthday is in January, so his birthday was like always around the Super Bowl, and we would have his birthday party would be the actual Super Bowl party. He would start off all excited in his starter jacket, and by the end of the party, child, that thing would be on the floor crying because somehow the Bills just didn't pull it out. So yeah, I was watching the Bills versus the Eagles, and I was kind of torn because I am a Jalen Hurts fan. So for those of you who don't know, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. And I'm really a fan because of his journey that he went through from college to the NFL. So let me give you a little story because I think that even if you're not a sports person, you will find something in this story that you probably can relate to. So here Jalen Hurts is playing for Alabama, starting quarterback, balling out. Then he started to have some troubles along the way, and he was replaced with the backup quarterback who is Tua. And Tua is now in the NFL, plays for the Miami Dolphins. Okay. So Tua replaced him. And Tua made some great plays. And voila, everybody left Jalen Hurts in the dust, kind of forgot about him, talked bad about him. He just went through a lot of scrutiny. As a result, he had to leave Alabama because he knew the vision for his life. He knew if I'm going to make it to the NFL, I have to be able to showcase my skill. And because I am no longer the number one quarterback and I am the backup quarterback, I may not get an opportunity to play. So what happens? Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma, where he plays well there. And then he is drafted to the Eagles. All right. So he's drafted as a quarterback to the Eagles. And um, he was once the backup quarterback once again. So he was drafted to the Eagles, but they did have a quarterback. Um, Fast forward, he gets his opportunity and he shines. He does so great, and they make it all the way to the Super Bowl. They did not win the Super Bowl last year. They made it to the Super Bowl, and honestly, it was questionable that last call that they called. I think it kind of threw the game, but whatever, he made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So from being the number one quarterback to the backup quarterback to having to go to another school, to getting drafted to an NFL, having his dream in mind, letting that be a reality, but still being drafted and being the number two guy is still not the number one guy, to somehow things changing, him becoming the number one guy, making it all the way to the Super Bowl. And yes, he did beat my Bills the other day. He didn't even have a great game, but he beat the Bills nonetheless. However, so I was watching just some old footage of him, or like a clip came up on I think Instagram or YouTube, and he was in a press conference and they were asking him like, how did you deal with all of the adversities that you have faced during, your career, and all of the things that they had to say about you, and that you weren't good enough and that you would never get here, and X, Y, and Z. And I had to write this down because it pierced me right in the heart. And he said, I had a purpose long before they had an opinion. Let that marinate. He said, I had a purpose long before they had an opinion. And that really struck me because it shows you that as you go through this process, people are going to have an opinion of who you are and what you're doing, and if it's good enough, and if you should be doing it, and how you should do it. All of these opinions, they can start to crowd our lives and get into our ears and our spirits, and then we start to second guess ourselves. But we have to remind ourselves that, wait a minute, I had a purpose before they had an opinion. And when you know your purpose, you will not allow the opinions to dominate your process. I'll say that again because somebody needs to hear it. When you have a purpose, you will not allow the opinions of others to dominate your process. Imagine if Jalen Hurts would have taken um the him being moved to the second string quarterback as the dominance of his path. Would he be where he is? Would he be in the running to go to the Super Bowl again this year? They are at the top of their conference. Like, this is a second string guy that you replaced him. Remember, y'all replaced him with Tua. And Tua's team in the NFL is not even doing what the Eagles team is doing right now. But somebody, the opinion of someone else, deemed him as not being good enough, deeming him that you're only a second string quarterback. You're not number one. And he could have allowed those opinions to overshadow the purpose. He knew what his purpose was. He knew, like, no, I'm going to get there and I'm going to be that number one guy. But he had to shut down the noise. And so many times we have this idea of who we are, and we know in our hearts, like, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But when we get on the path of doing it, it gets really difficult sometimes. It gets really cloudy because it just doesn't always go the way we anticipated. When we sit down and we envision our lives and we dream about what we will become and all that we will accomplish and the places we will go and the people that we will meet, we do not fantasize about adversities. Because what is there to fantasize about when you're in a dark season and you don't know how things are going to go and how things are going to turn out? We don't fantasize about that part. However, we have to know that even when we encounter the most difficult seasons of life, that does not overshadow the purpose. People gonna talk, people gonna be like, yeah, I thought that was a good idea. I know, maybe it's not time, maybe you shouldn't. The opinions of others, we give them too much credit and too much weight in our process. You are the visionary. You are the one living with the purpose. And it's okay when people have an opinion, but we cannot treat their opinion as our truth. That is their perspective of what they see about us and where we are and what we're doing and where we're going to go. But you got to remember, I had a purpose long before you had an opinion. You got to remember that. And you have to remind yourself of that. So I took some notes because I was like, with that being said, what are the lessons in that quote? I had a purpose long before you had an opinion. What does that mean? Um, the number one thing that the way I interpret it as that you have to cut out how you view and internalize what everyone else has to say about you. A lot of times when we hear stuff, we don't know how to just let it flow in one ear and out the other. Somehow we allow ourselves to hear it, to consume it in our spirit, replay it in our mind, and then we make it our reality. It is just someone's opinion They don't know your story. We have to not allow narratives to become our reality, the narratives of somebody else to become our reality. Because people are seeing your life through the filter of their own lives. So therefore, maybe in their life, they've seen someone doing what you're doing and that person has failed. And so they only have one reference for it. And now here you are doing something similar to what they have seen. And now their opinion is, you can't do that. That's not going to succeed. You won't ever be successful at that. And before you know it, you internalize that thing and then you make it your reality. We cannot focus on other people's perception of our lives and our value and our purpose. The second thing that I put is you can't put more value in someone else's opinion than you put into your purpose. You can overvalue the opinion of someone in your life or someone that's not even in your life. You can just overvalue someone's opinion and somehow it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you will replay it over and over and over and over again. A lot of times we want to know, just as humans, we want to know, like, what do you think? Do you think that's okay? Especially when we are tapping into new territory and we are working towards new ventures, we want that validation. We want someone to co-sign everything that we are setting out to do. We want someone to affirm us and say, you got this, it's going to be great. That's not always the case. Sometimes nobody not going to believe it. Nobody not going to see it. Nobody not going to understand it. But it is still up to you to put more value in what you believe about your purpose than what someone has to say and their opinion about what it is that you're doing. Ask yourself, where is your value? Where have you placed your values? Are they in you or are they in somebody else? All right. Moving on. Trust what you know about you. So simple, but it can be so hard to do. Trust what you know about you. I have to pause here because last year, closing out last year, I kept hearing, know who you are, know who you are. Like everything kept confirming that. I felt that in my spirit. I would be having a conversation with somebody, and that would just keep coming up. Know who you are, know who you are, know who you are. And at the time, I felt like I know who I am. Like, why does this keep replaying in my head? Like, know who you are, know who you are. I now understand that I had to first know who I am before I could trust who I am. When you're unsure of who you are, you don't know what to believe. And so I kept getting that confirmation of, hey, know who you are, know who you are, know who you are. And I really began to zone in on me. There was so much going on in my world and things were coming together and some things were falling apart and some things I was sure of and something I was unsure of. And it just kind of felt like a whirlwind. And I'm like, what is going on? And the only thing that I had was the knowledge of who Quinny is. Like, and as I begin to zone in on me, I begin to see like, whoa, like really see me without stuff, without relationships, without status, without any little thing attached to me, just like, who are you? And when I begin to really know the woman that I am, I started to trust those things that I found out. I began to like, oh, no, 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 I am dope. I am. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I'm called to that. That is my purpose. And it allowed me to focus more on me than I was focusing on my circumstances because sometimes we equate who we are to our circumstances. And that is the most detrimental thing that we can do, because we go through seasons where we don't look like anything that we are working towards. Sometimes we are in a season where stuff just not working out, and we are working towards it. And we doing everything that we need to do, and stuff just not working out. And if you don't know and trust who you are, you will start to believe your circumstances are defining you. And sometimes our circumstances are just a part of the process. Sometimes we're going to go through things that are beyond our control. And we have to utilize those things to help build our character, to strengthen us, to grow us, but not to define us. Know who you are, because that's the game changer. Lastly, your current outcome may not be in alignment with the final outcome. Going back to Jalen Hurts, when he got pushed to number 2, his current outcome, like second string quarterback, doesn't align with number 1 quarterback who just went to the NFL Super Bowl last year. And so sometimes we have to know that this is temporary. One of my songs that I always find myself singing when I'm in a tough place is "It Won't Always Be Like This," right? Like sooner or later, it got to turn around. It has to turn around. And where you are today is not indicative of where you will be maybe even a year from now, maybe not even a month from now. That is just today. Take it day by day, because it won't always be like this. It has to turn. When you are working towards something and you are operating in purpose and you are being intentional with the steps that it requires to get to where you want to be, you have to know that it won't always be the way that it is. It just won't. And because of that, you have to just continue to work and just to move forward and find yourself in the space where you're like, no matter what, I'm going to keep at it. Because Jalen Hurts told us you had a purpose long before they had an opinion. They got an opinion because they see you doing something and they don't understand it. People have an opinion because they jealous. You make them insecure, so they got to talk about something. But they do not determine the outcome of your story. They don't determine who you are and what God has called you to be and to do. Stay the course. Stay the course. Trust the process. And remember that you have purpose. And so as we are wrapping this year up, and as we are embarking upon new goals and new endeavors, and as we, maybe this year didn't turn out just the way you wanted it to, maybe you thought some things were going to come through and they didn't come through yet, don't lose focus. Where you are right now is not the totality of your story. You have purpose. Turn down the volume on those opinions. Let people say what they want to say. They can, and that's okay. But you have to remember that there's purpose for your life. This is just a season, and that where you see yourself going, you're going to get there. I believe in you. The question is, do you believe in you? Until next time, take care of yourself. Keep on your path. Great things are going to happen.